Honorable Speaker Sir, can I start? Greetings, Honorable Speaker Sir and this Honorable Cabinet. Well, the members of opposition might have not successfully have mentioned their points in fulfilling the facts that it should pay. But one thing they have very successfully fulfilled. They have fulfilled to be the brand ambassadors for 5-star. Why? Because the quote of 5-star clearly mentions quote, eat 5-star, do nothing, unquote. And similarly, they have done nothing to prove that why the entire motion which has been put in this entire scenario should fail. Now, in this entire scenario, we are not talking about that is the Indian knowledge system bad or is the Indian knowledge system good. We are not talking about the improvement or the credibility of the Indian knowledge system or vice versa. But here in the entire scenario, the members of opposition have clearly failed in understanding that we are clearly talking about a very important perspective. And that perspective stands as the study of the Indian knowledge system, which will open new horizons in the field of knowledge. A worthy member of the opposition clearly highlighted that in UGC there is lack of teachers. That does not signify that how it will not be opening new horizons. Another worthy member of the opposition clearly highlighted that in Kerala there have been a multiple lack of problem solving. When we talk about Ayurveda, and Ayurveda have a different perspective of dealing with issues. Similarly, the medical science will also have a different perspective of resolving issues, and which cannot be compared on the problem-solving scenarios in a short-term into long-term scenario. Another worthy member of the opposition clearly highlighted that in the age of artificial intelligence, something historic, something which do not have much relevance cannot be taken into consideration. That in that scenario, history, which is our past, will also not be read. We are in this scenario not talking about the relevance or the importance and significance, comparing it together, but in the entire scenario, the entire context, we are talking about the path of knowledge and acquisition and which do not have a particular significance. Another worthy member of the opposition clearly highlighted that in the new education policy, we should look into major sectors. But it is the new education policy which have been implemented back to 2020. The IPS have also been established as a key core major subject in major universities of that of the Republic of India. Another worthy member of the opposition clearly highlighted a very important fact. That when we talk about very developing nations like the United States of America, developing nations like the People's Republic of China, one thing very common we find there that their competitive exams they focus on modern education, but probably they have misread their facts and figures. A very competitive examination of People's Republic of China is called GAFO, and in the GAFO examination there are 17 chapters which resembles to their knowledge system which have been established, which clearly highlights how this major developed nation in the entire world scenario, they have implemented their history, their knowledge system, their past, the entire context of their scenario of knowledge system. I quite remember a moment. I was in Kamakya temple. I met a sadhu there. I asked the sadhu about few questions, and then he was mentioning for Rig Veda and multiple Vedas. I asked him, what you are mentioning, is that just history or is just a mythology? He gave me a very simple answer. He gave me an answer that actually touched my mind and my soul. He mentioned that when you listen something which is good for the benefit of the society, does not matter, it might have to be a myth or it has to be a history. Knowledge can be taken from everywhere. Knowledge can be taken from a 5-year kid who goes to school and have manners, and also from someone who has great wisdom. Because knowledge has no restriction. And that's why in that scenario it is important to understand that we are talking about pathway to the knowledge acquisition. And at last, after hearing to the changing statements of members of opposition again and again, if a chameleon would have been present, the chameleon would have felt insecure about his ability. And the statements of members of opposition changes faster than a chameleon even changes itself. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Thank you, Honorable Cabinet.